Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here today. Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter into the record a statement from the National Association of Truck Stop Operators and the National League of Cities that highlights concerns about commercializing rest areas along the interstate system.
Without objection.
Thank you, sir. Secretary Perdue, the Rural Infrastructure Program in the administration's proposal would allocate funding to the governors of each state based on a rural formula. The rural formula would be based on rural lane miles and rural population. How does the administration intend to define rural for the purpose of this funding, really specifically as it relates to those rural lane miles? I know the Department of Agriculture has a number of definitions for rural, and other agencies do as well. What do you see happening here?
We have a number of definitions of rural across the federal government. We would love to see that synchronized in there, so we would have a common definition of rural. It's one of the issues that we deal with in our rural development program over what's there, what's eligible and what's not, and oftentimes it misses the boat over creating the opportunity for regional partnerships in that area. So we would welcome that, and we'd be participative in any ideas that Congress may have, and much of this is statutory over the definition there. Obviously, what we're looking at from rural miles, that's where the infrastructure is. As you know, from the farm to the market, there's a lot of rural roads that have to be traversed. So lane miles is just where the infrastructure is. It's the bridges and roads out there that happen, the waterways out there in rural America that happen, so that contribute to our competitiveness.
Do you have any suggestions right now, any options that you're presenting to the administration on what that definition of rural would be? And you also made a great point in being able to work regionally on many infrastructure projects. Do you have anything you can share with us?
Yes, our suggestion would be exclusionary. Anything less than a certain number. We're looking at 75,000 people in that regard, and obviously, when we talk about rural and we think fields and farms, there are many small communities out here, and some of them have grown and suburbanized, and in a region, they get more than that. So we would love to have a consistent definition that we could apply for our rural development program, and we think probably 50 to 75,000 is a good cutoff.
That would be great. Thank you. Secretary Ross, if the Rural Infrastructure Program utilizes a definition of rural based on lane miles and population, have you considered what impact that definition would have on rural broadband deployment?
Well, the 9/11 program, which is the one that comes directly under us, the FirstNet program, is meant to be ubiquitous. It's meant to serve all communities independently of size. So we have not drawn a differentiation between one size or another. We think we're solving the need for a national 911 system so that the first responders can be taking much better advantage of technology than had been the case. And a lot of that infrastructure will reduce the ultimate cost of broadband as it gets to the other communities. So we're very proud that it's a public-private partnership. We contributed to it some $6 billion of notional value of unused spectrum, and AT&T is putting up something like $40 million of their own money, $40 billion of their own money. So it's a pretty good ratio.
I was, I guess, happy to see in the principles that were put forward by the administration the rural component, first of all, and to allow for innovation in there. I realize that a lot of the money is going to be going for roads and through a funding formula principle there, which I'm supportive of. But I think the innovation part, especially when you're dealing with deployment of broadband services, is extremely important to this country as a whole, but it is also extremely important to rural areas and agriculture. When you look at the Internet of Things and the connectivity that is available there, agriculture is the third highest user on the Internet of Things. And so for that technology to advance and to expand and to grow all parts of this country, we have to be able to have that deployment of broadband across every area of the United States. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator